From my early childhood, I remember my father talking about the BraceroProject. My recollection, what he talked about was how when we were still living in Mexico, he was involved in this migrant worker program where he came up to the United States in the 1950s and actually worked in New Mexico and in Arizona as well with farmers, and was able to work here for a few months, and then would travel, go back to Mexico, and then he would come back again on this program that was called the Bracero program.
Okay, next question. Did your father say or talk about how he felt about the program while he was involved with it, or any of his feelings he had towards it?
Some of the things that he told me was that he was pleased with the program, because what it did was it allowed for him to come to the United States, and even though the wages were low, it did allow him to make money and was able to send money back to his family, to us, my brother and I and my mother, when we were able to be sustained in Mexico. And then he also would be able to have a small savings.
Okay, next question. Did your father say or talk about how he felt about the program while he was involved with it, or any of his feelings he had towards it?
Some of the things that he told me was that he was pleased with the program, because what it did was it allowed for him to come to the United States, and even though the wages were low, it did allow him to make money and was able to send money back. A big factor in us migrating to the United States was that same situation where we were spending a lot of time apart from the family together. So he would be staying up here in the United States and would have to cook his food and take care of all of the household chores, as well as put in all of the hard work, and the family was gone in Mexico, and so just the fact of the absence of being together made the decision for him to work on getting immigration for the rest of us together. In the early 60s, he decided and determined that it was best for all of us to live together, and his decision was to come up to the States because he felt that it was more opportunity for him and for the family to live here versus the conditions down in Mexico. So when that decision was made, I remember that we lived in Chihuahua State, which is northern Mexico, but we had to travel to Juarez, which is the El Paso, Texas border town, and had to go through the consulate and all.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the reasonings why your father wanted to bring the family to America, and just anything you kind of remember about that?
My father worked in that Bracero program for quite some time, and as I mentioned, it was difficult. And shortly thereafter, we went down to Mexico and packed up very few clothes. Really, that's all that we could cross across the border. And that was in 1964 that we ended up moving to a small town near Roswell, New Mexico, called Hagerman. And that was my very first time coming here to the United States when I was 7 years old.
How did those experiences shape you to become the man you are today?
I learned a lot from both of my parents growing up, and part of the biggest thing that stayed with me was you always work hard and you give it your best, no matter in what circumstance or what specific job that you have. So that is where a strong work ethic was an example to me by both my mother and my father, and that's the example that I've tried to pattern and to model for my family and my girls that I have. The other thing that I did learn and was told to me by both of my parents was that to get an education, and even though they did not have any formal education at all, they knew that the key and the success for us to have was to both of their sons receive a good education, even though they could easily have pulled us out of school. The life that I've been able to offer to my girls has been a dramatic difference than from what I grew up, and I attest that to a lot of what I learned as I was young, and the experiences that I had, and then the opportunities that I've had as I grew up and now as an adult. So those are certainly some neat memories that I can share and have, let my family be aware of, and hopefully they will pass on that legacy to their kids as well.